You're live.
I don't think we have anything else, Andrea, so if you want to ask for a motion to adjourn?
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. I'll second.
We still have finance and rules.
I can never fill those shoes.
Motion adjourned.
Yes.
We're done.
Did Lisa leave?
I think she wants to.
Are you in my committee?
Oh, for a walk about.
I looked around.
She's still there.
Oh, my bag is
That's
there.
yours.
That's not mine.
Right, right, okay. And you film and release.
I don't want the.
Don't harass, don't harass our
He's
group.
gonna follow me. Andrew, you need to sit.
Oh, I did.
Make sure you take a power.
We're gonna have,
These are
you're gonna wanna
more
see the link to
basic,
the
yeah.
line list.
So, with some print signature.
Handful of us have to sign.
Oh, boy.
She's related.
Access to-
Oh my God, here we go. See?
I know. I think it's a different thing.
The line list and we're working.
You'll tell her in advance that she's gonna have to push.
I did the checklist. I mean, this is the
Oh,
same
push the
one that I was
tire.
getting from.
But some of it will rough coming in the parking lot too.
That's all.
That's my baby.
I think I'm pretty rough on it.
That's each other's.
Maybe you shouldn't let him drive it.
That's the heat shield.
Yeah.
Aluminum on metal and that aluminum cross, there's really no good way of putting it. And the way it's put around the exhaust, I don't feel, I've been trying to rip it off. Just the way they got it cut around the exhaust.
That's a 10-year-old beauty out there.
Yeah.
10-year-old piece of junk.
You know, you ought to order that new bag.
Okay.
I don't know.
I was gonna say copy.
You don't want.
For a 4.5 foot bag.
So I assume that you're doing.
Not me.
Pick me up.
So, yeah, that's the biggest change.
Carmel's eradicated.
We're gonna put her. All right, thanks.
They already know, that's why you trade it. Probably get more.
Tom, ready
You know,
I'm pretty sure it's not.
you never know.
Red is peanut.
That is, what a being. You went down to $7,000.
Call upon you to rule committee to order. Need a motion to approve the August 17th Finance and Rules Committee minutes. Bill? Second by Ian. Any additions, corrections? All in favor, aye? Been accepted. Motion to adjourn.
Good one, Tom.
Try. Ron's out here, we can't do that. I guess we got presentation. Ryan has 5 minutes.
You wish.
That was a typo, right?
I didn't put them in.
I just wanted to talk this one, this is executive session. Okay. It is budget season, folks, and the first thing that I always bring to the board, because it is our most important asset and our most expensive asset, is personnel. Can you bring it back in? Personnel recommendations. The department heads this year were chock full of personnel recommendations, probably because we cut them all 20% last year, anticipating the apocalypse that did not come. So, some of it is restoring positions that we had cut, some is additions, which, we have programs that are growing and changing, and so our workforce needs to grow and change as well. Everybody get one of these? Okay. Candy and Jake, sitting here, you might want to follow along. Sorry. So, I'd like to go through these.
That's okay, you could ignore me.
You were in the room when we.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, you weren't? All right. I'm gonna go through these requests one by one. Some have been recommended, will be recommended in the budget, some will not. The reason I wanna go through these is because it gives you guys kind of an idea of what we're looking to do for personnel next year. So, the first is an information technology request from Connor, new position, a computer systems assistant. This would be a grade 29. It is the same position that we already have three of already, so this will be adding a fourth in IT. It is for 1/2 of the year, it's not for the whole year. The reason that's for half the year is that we really want to bring this person on board for the moving. So we are going to have at one time about 5 campuses going with the renovation stuff. And that's a lot of IT to keep track of, and it's a lot of IT assets to move. So we want to bring this person on board in July so that they can help us with the move for DSS. And it would also, we have a retirement coming at DSS. Their IT person is retiring after a lot of years with the county. She's expected to be retiring sometime in the next 2 years. So this would allow that person to train and learn from, the DSS role, at the same time giving us an extra set of hands during the capital project IT exchange. So I am recommending that we go with that person for half the year, starting in July. And so that you can expect to see that position in the budget. Into planning and community development, the request was to upgrade a senior keyboard specialist from 35 to 40 hours. No doubt this is a great employee, no doubt that this person goes above and beyond. The 35 to 40 hour issue is a critical issue. We have people across every department that would love to go 35 to 40 hours. Our caseworkers at DSS would love to go to 40 hours. They often work through their lunches. Our folks at the DMV would love to go to 40 hours. They're often, staying after a little late, counting money and squaring things up. Rather than go 35 to 40 hours, which would be about a $5,000 benefit to this person, I'm recommending instead that we just put some overtime in the planning budget so that if there is, times where, we have a lot going on planning right now. They're managing more grants and we have more funding coming through that department than they've ever had. So if this person has to stay a little bit later or they need some extra hours, we have overtime there. That would be the goal. So for another request from planning is community development specialist. So this would be to add basically a third planner in that office. Again, this is a half a year request. We do have someone in mind that's interned with us the last 2 years. This person is graduating college in June, and we'd like to bring them on board. The offset, the reason that I'm recommending this, and it is an increased cost to the county, but we are now managing the CDBG program that Snowbelt Housing was managing. So we're gonna get administrative funds for that. And we have written in all these grant requests that we're starting to receive. The broadband, Northern Border Regional, the broadband CDBG. We are putting in administrative fees for us to keep for administering the grants in each of these requests. So we feel that we can offset this new planner position with the grant. You know, as long as we keep cooking up there and they keep getting grants, we'll have more admin fee to play with.
So this is zero cost, and you anticipate zero cost forever?
No, I don't anticipate zero cost forever. I think as long as we're doing well up there, then yes, it could. Now, we also have the keyboard specialist that is retiring soon, in the next couple of years, we don't know, but a couple of years. We wouldn't replace that. We just have an office of 3 planners and a director. So that would be the goal, long term.
What's the admin percentage, 13?
10 to 15% typically. Yeah. So
So like the CDBG, granting discount was for $750,000, so that's $75,000 to $90,000 right there. One grant. So they are doing an awesome job in that department.
our departments all do important things for the community. A lot of it is the maintenance of service. Planning is where, and economic development and the IDA is where we push new things and new initiatives. And so I don't mind putting more resources, you know, towards that effort, especially since they've been so successful. So. Buildings and grounds. This is a small ad, but we have gone through a lot of cleaners since I've been here. I've probably had 5 different people we've had cleaning the courthouse. That's a lot of vacancies where we're recruiting for new people and things don't get done. There's also nobody to call when someone comes in sick or has surgery. I'd like to create 2 per DM cleaner positions just as subs. So when someone doesn't show up, we have somebody to call that can get the work done. I'm not putting in a lot of money, just $2,000, but at least we'll have somebody in those times when we're between positions or.
Ever think about bidding it out to a private entity?
We've never gone down that road. We could. Yep, that's not a bad idea, Greg. Codes department has requested a part-time junkyard inspector. This would be a grade C18. I'm recommending about $20,000 for that. We are also adding the town of Lauville. The town of Lauville has officially opted out of their code enforcement, which means it'll be onto the county to do that. So this, I think, kills 2 birds with 1 stone. We don't need a whole new codes person for just the town of Lauville. Their volume isn't that much greater than, Watson or New Bremen. It's fairly similar. So rather than adding a whole new person, if we just took junkyards off the plate of all of the code officials, let them just do codes, somebody just for junkyards, I think it could solve our junkyard problem by having a dedicated junkyard person and also open up their time to handle the addition of the town of Lauville. We had a part-time junkyard inspector in
2014 was the last one that we had.
So we did have one.
Who's left for towns that do their own codes right now?
Lionsdale and Leiden. I think that's it. And they'll probably be coming to us soon because the same guy that does theirs, did Lauville and does Boonville and a couple others, and he's at retirement. So I would guess that they'll be coming our way soon as well. Let's see. Okay, recreation, forestry, and parks. 2 new seasonal labor positions at $12,000 each. That's $24,000. This is offset by ATV revenue. We have hit $190,000 of revenue this year. We did well last year. And also our forestry revenue, Jackie's done a great job. We've hit over $70,000 the last couple of years on forestry products sales. So this should be budget neutral for us, but it'll give her more opportunity to get things done. We keep expanding the trail system, which means we have to maintain you know, how many resolutions you guys do this year, adding miles to the trail system. You know, every time you do that, it becomes harder to, it becomes more attractive for permit holders, certainly, but it becomes harder for us to do. So, that should be budgeted. Highway, Tim has recommended a series of kind of restructuring here. Some resignations have opened up, you know, some different opportunities here, so I want to run through these with you. Abolished position, Deputy Highway Superintendent. That was a management exempt position, grade 4. It's currently vacant. By abolishing that position, it would save us $74,000. What we would do instead is, if you go down a little bit to the last highway one, we'd upgrade the highway supervisor. So that's kind of the road foreman right now. That would go from a 23 to 26. So it's a decent raise, but not super expensive to the county. That person would take on more responsibility. And, you know, Tim has been more directly involved in operations, you know, and not felt the need necessarily to have another layer of administration through a deputy. We're going to abolish the position of mechanic, which we already talked about tonight. That was a resignation, so we're going to get rid of that position. And we're going to create 2 full-time medium equipment operators. So we already did one of them tonight. We replaced the mechanic with an MEO. Through the budget, I'd like to create another MEO. So again, that's using the funds from the elimination of the deputy position. Upgrade 3 positions from MEO to HEO. That'd be about a $7,000 total increase. And then a request to upgrade the sign maintenance MEO to sign maintenance HEO is not going to be recommended by me. Overall, you're saving, you know, $130,000 there, and we're breaking about even. In fact, it is a little less. So all the changes together are actually in the green for the county. So I think a good, decent restructuring for Tim, and also it saves the county money. So I think those are good moves.
Ryan, under your highway supervisor,
Yeah.
your position, the note says take some responsibility from deputy that we just got rid of.
Correct.
Okay. So how does that work? You don't have a deputy.
Well,
Taking over.
we're giving this person more responsibility.
He's taking it over.
He's not necessarily taking over all the responsibility,
No, but some.
but
Yeah,
some,
okay.
and we're giving him a $2,300 raise to do that,
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank
distributing some of those duties.
Yeah.
Office for the Aging is a position that we cut last year. We anticipated that the state, if you recall, we cut all state revenue across the board in the county budget by 20%. Had federal and state politics gone differently, we might be in a situation where the state was cutting our funding. Remember, they had an $8 billion budget deficit in 1 year. Well, they got $16 billion from the federal government. So they have restored all their funding that we thought would be cut. And so Crystal, in good faith, eliminated that position last year, had a retirement we did not refill. But since her funding has been restored, is asking to have the position restored this year. Public Health, upgrade health clerk to administrative assistant. The reason for that is we simply cannot find anyone to fill grade 5 clerk. It's just, it doesn't pay very much, and we've had no success posting it time and time again. So we don't have many straight up clerks left in our CSEA, and there's a reason for that, because they're hard to recruit and fill. So we're asking to move that up. Purchasing department, this is brand spanking new, and this is a bulk of the new expense that I'm asking for, but I'd like to create a 1-person department of purchasing director. That person would be responsible for all RFPs. That person would be responsible for all quotes. That person would be responsible for all contracts, working with Jones' office, and bulk purchases of everything that the county purchases, office supplies, salt, it would alleviate a lot of tedious responsibility on our department heads, and it would alleviate a lot of tedious responsibility on me. So I think this is a good move. I think it's past time that our organization has somebody that's focused and consolidating our purchasing efforts. So
I agree with that, but wouldn't that person require administrative support?
I'm
And-
hoping not, but we'll see how it goes.
He's part-time.
Yeah,
So you think we should have like a keyboard specialist or something to go
Yeah.
with them?
I should think that person,
It'd be
you
pretty
don't
hard.
want that, you're paying them 78,000, you don't want him necessarily doing
Typing and
clerical
making copies.
functions.
Fair, this is how
I don't
I,
want him typing and making copies.
Exactly right.
That administrative work could be handled through my office, actually. So if we somehow, connected that between Ryan's office and my office, I think we could do the administrative work for that person.
So you have spare time in your office, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we could give them.
Party is done.
if we alleviated, right now, I would say purchasing is handled really on a very ad hoc basis where Joan does a lot of it, I do a lot of it, department heads do a lot of it. I think consolidate, and Cassandra does a lot of it. Consolidating that into one responsibility will alleviate everybody else a little bit.
It should be a cost incentive too.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, we're a big company, we need a purchasing director, in my opinion.
So here's my opinion on the administrative support. I think government is typically slow to react to changes in the private sector. Private sector doesn't have as much administrative support as it used to have. I also think that we're heavy on administrative support, and I think that there's plenty of folks that if asked, could come up with an hour here, an hour there to do that. I also think that Jefferson County has 5 people in the purchasing department. St. Lawrence County has 4 people in the purchasing department. We're 1/5 the size of both of those places. So I was thinking that one person could handle it. That was my logic.
In the past, I have seen that sharing people does not work near as good as having a dedicated person. Even
I
if it's X hours a week, knowing that one person is gonna be there works a whole lot better than sharing.
I will go back, run the numbers and see if we, kind of how things work out. If we're able to add, make that a department 2. I probably wouldn't do administrative assistant. I would do a purchaser, so purchasing director and then purchaser working with them. That's the title that they have another time.
I'm not necessarily saying full-time person, don't get me wrong there.
Well, you could start out with one, and if it doesn't work, if it's puts too much stress or the system is broken, we can address it then.
So the other thing is we put them in grade 5, which, the reason I put 78,000 in there is because we're assuming they're gonna start somewhere in the middle of that grade. I'd like to get somebody with some experience because we don't have a lot of experience here collectively. So,
This position could actually save us quite a bit of money.
Exactly right. It can pay for itself.
So, for example, we're having Dank put together RFPs for us right now to clean up properties. We've paid engineers to put RFPs together for us. I think just the request for proposals, quotes, all that stuff is gonna save us. I really do. So, but point well taken, Phil, and I will go back and kind of look at the structure of some other, I'd maybe look at the structure of some smaller counties, which I haven't done yet. Look at Yates County and Seneca County, see what they have, you know what I mean? See what they're.
Well, even if, like, John's got she could commit to you 10 hours a week or whatever, at least you would know.
There you go.
And like
that's all.
Larry said, just to start out, to see how much that person really needs somebody else.
Designated hours from certain departments, I think is a good thought.
Exactly, yeah.
Good. Social services, we are going to abolish a part-time social services investigator, more commonly known as fraud investigator. This was a person that was retired and had been working with us. She was really good at her job and stayed on part-time. She is done, and that's okay, but we don't, it was nice to have her while we did, but we're able to move on without her at this point. So we're gonna abolish that position altogether. Jenny's asking for an upgrade for the computer systems assistant to LAN administrator. That's a $3,100 increase total. That's the person that is expected to be retiring soon. and we feel during this move, she's gonna have a lot of responsibility. Not only that, but if you compare her duties day to day to what the other 3 computer assistants have been doing day to day, there's very little doubt that she has had more responsibility. So I do support Jenny in asking for that increase. And again, that person will be retiring in the next couple of years. And then the goal would be for the new computer systems assistant to slide into that role. So
That's a different system too. It's a
yes,
state system.
yep, and it's been, yeah, you're right, Greg.
They never make anything that easy.
It's gonna be a really big challenge moving DSS for 6 months and moving back. But we can handle it, it's gonna be a big challenge.
Of course, that's thrown into the cost of that building.
No, that's additional. DSS, these are the 2 that you actually already did in Andrea's meeting, but we're abolishing that homemaker position and creating a case services aide instead. That's kind of self-explanatory, that just grade 10, we haven't really been able to have a lot of success with the homemaker position. Case services aide can serve all of the caseworkers and is a little bit more money, so hopefully more attractive to find somebody good to fill it.
There must be typo there on that, on this.
Yeah, she wasn't a
grade.
step 1, she was a higher step. She was all the way at the top of
The
it.
previous homemaker.
Yes, so
What'd you
that's why
have,
it's mistaken.
what'd you have for a number there, Caitlin?
I don't have her actual
Oh.
step, but that's why, because the person who's
It
in,
wasn't
was
step
in
one.
there wasn't at step 1.
Step 5 or 6.
Yeah,
Okay, good point, yep,
but that was her salary, it was just,
okay. I took that number right from the budget.
Yep.
Okay. So, I went back and looked at the last 3 budget years. I've given a similar spreadsheet. First of all, none were as long. And second of all, most of them broke even or saved money. So this is the first year that I'm recommending true additions in personnel in quite some time. And like I said, a lot of these actually balance out financially when you look at planning and the grants and the administrative money, you look at Jackie and the permit fees. And as you guys kind of mentioned with the purchasing director, there's a chance that that might balance us out. But on paper, in the budget, it is going to be a $1 increase. So that's what I'm looking to push forward. I still am shooting for a 0% increase budget. I don't think there's any reason to increase the tax rate this year. But, you know, we're going to have to absorb these costs into our operations, which I think we'll be able to do. So that's my report, unless there's any other questions or thoughts on this aspect of the budget.
I think how we can balance this out is you were supposed to be 15 minutes and you were more like 20, 25. So I think we penalize you a little bit of money. We can fund some of this.
It takes him 10 minutes to say good morning. And if he didn't have hands, he couldn't say a word.
I want to be thorough.
Compared to last time, but you've done pretty good, didn't you?
Well, that's a good point.
Good point.
Well, guess what? Connor's not here, so I got to do the other one.
Right. So you used up Connor's time. I understand now.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, hi. Anybody interested in a less than 0 budget? In other words, maybe a little less than what we've had in the last couple of years. Ryan would need that, he needs to know that if that's what we're thinking of. I don't know. I thought I'd raise it now. We're getting on toward budget time.
I haven't run the final.
Keep eating your candy, let somebody else talk. Is it, anybody had that thought? I mean, we've done pretty well over the time. We've always stayed under the 2%.
Well, let me just say that we haven't finalized any of our collective bargaining contracts, so,
I threw it out for discussion.
Yeah.
I think if we're gonna do something where it'd be less than a zero budget would be great.
Yeah.
But I think if you were looking to take a little bit more up, I think we ought to look at the hospital because of that deficit that they're gonna be.
So let me just say that the
I got that
IGT amount has gone back up. So we already are dealing with $1 million swing from last year just on IGT. So we could probably, I'm not gonna commit to anything, because I truly have not run the numbers of the current assessment Yeah.
They
We're not-
got that millions. He's got an operating loss of 990.
Here's the deal, sales tax is
It's on
giving us enough cushion to do about what we want. So I'm gonna be able to present you guys a pretty flexible budget. At that time, if you wanna be a little more liberal with sales tax and reduce the levy, you can. I'm guessing that's what we're gonna end up.
It just gives us something to think about. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that? If not, we'll just move along the dockets.
What about the?
We had the
all the cards.
purchasing part policy.
Yep, and Connor's gone, so you get me again. So
Time's up.
we have, those of you that have been on the board for quite some time, we have been talking, in fact, I inherited a folder from Liz that said, credit card policy. We have not implemented our credit card policy yet, and I really, truly want to get it done this year. The goal would be to have, credit cards that each department has their own credit card, people that can book their own hotel rooms, they can buy things on Amazon. We are going to absolutely modernize, which is good, but you're also giving employees more freedom to purchase things without it going through the board, without it going through me. And so that's a change. The way you adapt to that change is you adopt personnel policy that says people that make improper purchases get punished. So the whole package is something that you're looking at. It outlines exactly how we use these cards, and it outlines exactly what happens if we misuse the card. And that's how you manage it.
The one thing I didn't notice in there, because I did read into this a little bit, was I didn't notice any dollar amounts.
Limits.
Yeah.
Those will be set by the credit cards themselves. So if you go
By
to,
department, not by department?
no, I'm saying if we give a card to Candy, then we can set the limits on that card for each department.
Like transactional, like
We can, yeah,
$200
transaction.
transaction.
I mean, I had one when I was working, it's, I had a $10,000 limit.
Yeah, we are asking our employees still at conferences to bring back a voucher to the treasurer's office. They get laughed at, folks. We need to get into the 21st century. So it's time to move it along. The other advantage is, just like your own personal credit card, when you spend, enough money on it, you get cash back rewards. St. Lawrence County has got hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash back rewards. They make almost every purchase through their credit card. I don't think we're ready to go that direction, but there are counties that are doing that and are making money. So anyway, that's my 2 minutes to make up for.
Will you be getting 13 robocalls a day to give you zero interest rate on your
Yeah.
credit card?
We always
Maybe
get
Eric,
pretty
I'm
good
kidding.
So the treasurer will be overseeing this.
Treasurer and me and auditor, yes, which is Cassandra's office. The difference is when you guys get your list of claims, we have not sent out checks for most of those. When you get your list of claims now, a lot of them are gonna be paid. And that's just 21st century business.
And that's also something you might want to get the purchasing director involved in.
Yes, big time. Yep.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Brian Connor? Yeah, take care of
Well,
that.
you're on a roll.
It's been a long day.
Yeah,
You're doing good. I guess we're ready to talk now.
Okay. Adopting local law number 5-2021, a local law providing for increases to salaries for certain local officials.
Questions, comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Adopting the purchasing card policy and procedures for the County of Lewis.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the extension agreement between the County of Lewis and ICU Security and Private Investigations for unarmed security guard services at the Department of Motor Vehicles Building for a term of November 5th, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, at a cost not to exceed $32.50 per hour.
Any questions or comments? I think Jake is here if
I
anybody.
thought we already did this, Jake.
No, we only passed the original one that carried us up to November 5th. And it was the understanding we're hoping that the mask and the COVID was going to kind of calm down by then. Just under recent events.
We just did the DSS one last week.
Yeah, that was.
Well, he's got the problem. That guy has a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a gun. He
Any other questions or
doesn't really
comments?
need one. Taser would do.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Accepting cybersecurity grant and authorizing contract with Core BTS Inc. for cyber hardware and services at Board of Elections.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Motion to authorize County Clerk Jake Mosher to refill one full-time motor vehicle application examiner position effective immediately.
I'll make that a motion. Do a second.
I'll second.
Greg? Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to authorize real property tax director Candy Aiken to refill one full-time senior keyboard specialist position effective immediately due to resignation.
And I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
By Phil, any questions, comments? Andy's here if there is.
Is there a need for it? I mean, I thought admin wasn't needed. Know what you said, Ryan?
No, I said
Pretty
we're
much.
administratively heavy.
That'd be,
Prior to this resignation, I was actually looking for the board to change that position, but because of the timing and her resignation, I decided to keep it as a senior keyboard specialist.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Negative, carried.
Motion to authorize solid waste director Kip Turk to refill one part-time MEO medium position effective immediately.
Questions or comments? All in favor,
I
aye?
need somebody to move that.
Oh, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I got ahead of myself.
That's okay.
second.
Okay.
All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Motion to authorize social services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time secretary to the commissioner position effective immediately.
I'll make that a motion. You got a second?
I'll second.
Ian? Questions or comments?
Did that person retire or resignation? It really doesn't say, it just says refill.
Which one are you talking about?
Secretary to commissioner.
Secretary.
That person retired over a year ago. We held it
Oh, you
vacant.
never filled any?
Kenny left and then never filled the position, thought I could do without it.
Oh, that's right, it's admin, so they could.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
We would, just for the record, this person, we would like them to work also in the one-stop shop because we're expanding the Careers Here program. So that's why we've had left it vacant, but now we do feel there's enough work to justify.
Motion to authorize social services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time caseworker position effective immediately due to resignation.
I'll make that a motion. Second?
Aye.
Bill? Questions, comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Negative? Carried.
Motion to authorize social services Commissioner Jennifer Jones to refill one full-time fiscal manager position effective immediately due to pending resignation on December 31st, 2021.
I'll make that a motion. That came through from.
Yeah, yep, all the last four then.
Questions, comments? All in favor, aye?
Who seconded that?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Anybody opposed? Carried.
Okay. That's all I had.
I do have the request, to go into executive session to talk about,
Hold on, Joan.
Can I bring something up, Joan, before we go into
Sure.
executive session?
Well, everybody's going to stay.
As I emailed to you guys, I would like to share that opioid money with the schools equally. I understand there's complications, as Joan indicated, but they'd have to go by the rules just like everybody else. And
well, and I just want to make sure that because they don't have the plan set for those two other tiers of payment, so I just want to make sure that it's not something that we can just give to the schools and they just have to comply with it. I want to make sure that there's not something that the county has to do to make sure other entities get a certain part of the funding or something like, in the community or the hospital or something like that. That's my only concern. And nothing's been set out in the plan yet.
And they haven't identified, the whole structure of that was to offset the costs incurred by municipalities for costs incurred dealing with opioid
Right,
overdoses or whatever. So
right.
will it even be possible for,
We might be able to fashion something that can go, because I do agree with Phil that education in the schools is a big part of maybe, avoiding the problem of addiction later on or even while they're in school. But
I
I'm
agree
not
with
sure
that.
it's the
It's
only thing.
prevention is
Yeah.
got to be a factor in
Right.
that, I should think.
I agree with what you're saying, but anytime you get a grant, the devil's always in the details and they
Yeah.
don't know what you can do with it.
Well, do you agree with the concept?
Yeah, I'm fine with.
I can agree with it wholeheartedly if it's something that we can do legally and properly.
Thank you. Greg, do you agree with that concept?
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to say anything? Jerry? Dick?
I'm good with it.
We should have even more money rolling in, right? Joan, there's several lawsuits that are in.
Yeah, there are still 3 defendants who have not yet settled, so there could be additional funding coming.
Based on what you've sent us, it could maybe not be a very substantial amount, but it could make a difference. If it makes a difference in one child.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else for open session?
Yeah. I'd like us, in the budget, I'd like us to consider upping the ante on the 5 museums that we have in the county, giving them a little more money in the budget. Particularly in view of the situation around the country where we want to forget our history. It seems like we've got some really good museums here that want to preserve our history. And I can't remember them getting a raise. Can you, Jerry, since you've been here? It's always been 1,000 since I've been around. And I think it'd be nice to give them, I'd like to double it actually, but I'd like us to consider that in the budget. That's all. I just wanted to say that publicly.
You got a general consensus that that might be a good idea?
I think it ought to be discussed.
I think we need to take a look at the list. I mean, I think against doing that, but.
And also what the impact of a larger one-time payment would be rather than yearly.
Well, we're only talking $5,000.
We received
If we gave them double.
So some counties do it differently than we do, and there's been a request to do things differently, where we basically do one larger contribution to the Lewis County Historical Society, and then they divvy that funding out based on which places have projects going on, and they might get 10,000 one year, 1,000 the next, rather than us cutting individual checks. But these are the types of things that is totally, I don't get fired up about. Whatever you guys like and whatever you want to do, I will reflect Phil's comments in the tentative budget, and then from there you guys can debate kind of figure out how you want to go about it. We got a substantial request from the Lewis County Historical Society. We typically do about, I think, $28,000 a year to them. They requested for $80,000. So, and I'm not suggesting we go, quite that high, but there is certainly an appetite, it seems, for, they're asking for, for more money from the county.
What was the justification, Ryan, if any?
Well, there's about a 20-page justification that I have not read yet, if I'm being honest. But they certainly did their homework and put it all together, so.
We ought to know those so we can prioritize them, if we're not gonna give them the whole thing, so we know which ones we're bringing out, yeah.
I was really impressed with the Constable Hall. When we had the meeting down there, the work that they've done, and it's impressive. And the Macon Museum, and the Railroad Museum, and I haven't been to Lion Falls one, but I'm sure that's good, and I know the Diana is good. And there's a lot of volunteer work involved in all that, and I just think we ought to.
So
acknowledge that.
another thing to consider is, we do have, kind of like we've been talking about, fund balance money. We have wind, money and solar money. You could do a one-time, payment kind of outside the budget. That way, it's not an annual thing that, is on our levy. So there's lots of ways to look at it, but I'm open to exploring those.
The other, on that list, we give $45,000 a year to the I Love New York program. I
Yes.
think we need a presentation on what we get out of that.
Yep. So they match the reason that we do so much, that's our county maximum, because they match us dollar for dollar with their funding. But part of it goes into the statewide pot, not all of it is just for our advertising. So.
They being the state mandates. I agree with Larry, we don't see what we do. I'm not sure I probably are, but I was see that.
Okay, I agree. So, actually, last year, I think was the first year that we didn't have the chamber in prior to budget because of everything that's going on with COVID. We typically have the chamber come in prior to budget and give a tourism update.
Will you be having open budget sessions where legislators can come and listen?
We'll have budget workshops like we have in the past.
So it's not gonna be 3 minutes.
It'll be 12, it'll be 10, 8 men and 2 women in this room.
Yeah, I said
Better say 3. Change it.
Well, guess what? The old Albany 3 men in a room has now changed to 2 women and 1 man.
That's, you're right. That's a good thing.
Okay, anything else?
I'll be quiet now, Tom.
Okay, sounds good. You took up all of Ryan's time.
There you go. Well, that was worth it then, wasn't it?
All right, I guess now we need a motion to go into executive session.
To discuss, property negotiations, and, Ms. Lisa can be excused.
Well, I need her to stick around for a couple things first.
Well, then you can go to Ryan.
Okay,
We have a personnel matter before,
Oh, you want to do that first?
well, I want to do it all in one session.
and then junkyard.
Yes,
Yeah,
right
we're gonna meet
after,
with
we'll
them afterwards.
have those guys, yep. You guys can go right into my office if you want, if you're waiting, no problem.
Do you want me to go to your office now for that?
No, stay and then we'll have you go at the end.
You know where the office is at?
Yeah, they're going into executive session.
Are we gonna, does somebody want to make that motion?
We'll make that motion.
Oh, I gotta stop.
Oh.